One. Tom Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for having me, man.
So, Theater of Terror. Tell me about Theater of Terror. I've seen a lot of your campaigns, your emails, notifications, and so tell me a little bit about that.
So you have Theater of Terror on a couple of levels I could discuss. So Theater of Terror, the production company, that's who we are. I'm the founder of that company. We've been making independent horror since 2012. Our most recent release is The Theater of Terror, which was a 4-film anthology I created. And we kind of named it after the company for the reason that it just kind of fit the wraparound story. What we wanted to tell the story was that there was a theater that contained some type of evil spirits, and we have 4 films shown in there. Without giving too much away, that's the anthology as a whole. We just completed that. What I'm currently working on is a new 4-film anthology that's going to be a sequel to the original 2018 anthology release, and that's called Return to the Theater of Terror. Another 4 short stories, and hopefully the wraparound story will also be in this theater, where we divulge a little bit more information about the background of the theater, and just kind of that that canon behind what's going on with these films.
Sure. Yeah. So.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I lost. Sorry.
I lost audio as well.
Okay.
I'll stand by 1 second.
That's all right.
Okay. All right. So, okay. so I'm a big fan of like the VHS 1 and 2, VHS viral. So those those anthology horror 3 short films or 4 short films packed into a feature film capsule.
Yeah. These are probably about 20 minutes in length each. And then our wraparound story probably runs about 20 minutes. So the film altogether runs about an hour and a half, roughly. Yeah. Awesome. Very different subgenres of horror that we explore in each short. Each short is very different. In our original, we had a short that was kind of a dark drama about a doll. We had a creature feature, which was about a bookworm. We had a sci-fi about an alien visitor from space. And then our last one was more of a horror with a werewolf story. In our new anthology, we've got time travel, we've got ghosts, we've got ancient shaman curses, and we've got robots. So it's kind of fun. We get to explore those different subgenres and in each short film, in each 20-minute short.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how have you been impacted recently, say the last 6 months?
Well, like the rest of the world, it's been real tough for us. Just socially, obviously, it's hard to be stuck in the house and have everything closed. It's great that things are starting to slowly reopen now. It feels great to get out of the house. I think we're kind of lucky with the weather, where we did get to spend some time, at least in our own backyard, and get out and get some fresh air. So that helps. In regards to the production work, we had just finished shooting our first short film of the new anthology, Soothsayer, in March, right when the quarantine was implemented the next week. And so I was lucky enough to have all the footage that we needed for the short to get to work editing it. And the extended period of time for which we've been quarantined allowed me to kind of edit it. And since we didn't have any premieres or anything, we did have premieres planned for it, which of course were squashed because we actually shot part of that film in the Bloomfield College. Mm-hmm. And just due to the virus and schools being unsure how they could reopen, there was no way we can hold a premiere there. And there's no way that anybody thought we'd get an audience that would show up. Even back then, even wearing a mask in a social setting like that wasn't enough for a lot of people. And so it was just something that was just bad timing altogether. But I did get to do a lot of extended editing on the short, which I think made it a better film. I kind of looked at it over and over and over and had a lot of time to edit it. And now that we're starting to come out of it, it's great because I think I worked on a lot of pre-production stuff for the next short film. Yeah. And we have a lot of our ducks in a row now. The only issue with this now is securing locations that might be more publicly used because, of course, everybody's you know, when you say you want to come in and do a film shoot, they picture you showing up with 100 people. And that's not the way we operate. We're a very small production crew. So that's kind of been a little bit challenging, but I think things are going a lot better now. And we're ready to roll, and that's great. That preparation, that time, and that preparation that I spent in pre-production has got us ahead of the game now, where we're going to jump back into shooting.
Yeah, I think, and myself included, this was the opportune time to write and prep and outline and budget shot, like all the prep, breakdowns and schedules and shot lists and budgets and that sort of thing, and then write, and just like future projects, and just write.
Sure.
And but what were we gonna say?
No, well, I did some short films with my son Jack and his friend Cody, some friends of ours in the neighborhood. We got the boys together, and they needed some company. They were bouncing off the walls, and we got them together. And I shot a series of short films with them called the Chilling Childhood Adventures of Jack and Cody, and they're kind of horror oriented. They're on our YouTube channel, Theater Terror's YouTube channel. But that was something else that I just to keep busy and keep creative, keep my editing chops up, have something to cut together. I shot the whole thing on the iPhone, but it was quick, dirty, fun filmmaking, and just to keep the creative juices flowing.
And I've seen social media and all that stuff, and everyone's finding new ways of recreating still the same stories and the same content, but just unique, different ways, whether it be through TikTok or Instagram, and it's just with a GoPro or an iPhone, and just all these different workarounds. But have you been back on set yet?
Not yet. We're the end of this month. Our first shoot for our second short film starts at the end of this month, so we're geared up. The cast and crew are everybody's itching to get back to it. They've had this script for at least the past 6 months, if not longer. Like I said, we have all the pieces in place, so everybody's just ready to go. I think it's going to be a great launching point for us, because it's not an extremely difficult scene. It's actually a very cool scene in our new short, which I think is going to be fun for everybody to get into. We've got some practical effects involved. It's a bar scene. We've got some creepy extras. It's going to be really cool for everybody, and I think we're all really looking forward to it. So yeah, the end of this month, fingers crossed, we're ready to rock and roll. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and like I've mentioned it a million times, on this podcast before, that I miss set life. Being in front of the camera or behind it, and it's definitely it's definitely been a unique adjustment. I think me and the wife have been so efficient, with the new normal, as it might be, referred to now. Me working from home. She's a third grade teacher. She's teaching from home, Zoom teaching, and just trading the kid, or both of it, and then it's easier for us to just sit down as a family, and then just jump on. I'll jump on my deck, and she jumps on her deck, and we've gone to date. We've taken the kid to daycare now, so that's been a part of the plan, and it's right down the street, and so 5 minutes, drop off the kid, 5 minutes back, turn the computer on, and it's sort of work. Business, sort of business as usual. You mentioned shooting a lot of stuff with the kids. Have you guys been binge watching, binge reading, binge studying anything, or just escaping?
So we binge watched with the kids all the DC, the CW stuff, the Flash and Arrow, which we like the Flash a lot. We liked Arrow a lot. We got into what's the other one? Legends of Tomorrow. We watched that one too. My wife and I are watching Supergirl. I think my daughter is at least all superheroed out, and my son has been caught up with his video games, playing Fortnite, and he's I try to get him to play Star Wars with me once in a while, but he's up on Fortnite. But yeah, we were binge watching a lot of stuff like that. We got into a few other really interesting ones. The one with Zac Efron, it's called. It was on Netflix. It was like
It's like a
It was
travel,
basically,
right?
yeah, kind of looking for like renewable energy and just
Hmm.
how disasters and climate change affects certain countries and then other countries that have these great different perspectives on how to purify your water or what kind of water. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I try to get them to watch some educational stuff. My wife and I binge watch The Boys. We're on
Yeah.
season 2 now. We love it. We love it. Absolutely love it. I just recently watched a horror movie called Alive. It's a new Korean zombie film on Netflix. I don't know if you ever saw Train to Busan, but it's very similar to that. That was a big hit for the Korean horror
But then
community.
didn't they came out with a sequel to Train to Busan, didn't they?
Yeah, it's called Peninsula.
Peninsula, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but this film Alive is very similar to that. Also similar to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake. Like I think that's really that to me is like the model of Korean zombie films almost. Like they're all kind of very similar to that. The erratic, fast zombies,
The infected and the infected zombies, yeah.
right, and just it's so yeah. I enjoyed that one. It's strange because it had a ton of similarities to my first short film, Day 9, where it was almost like, did they see my movie before they made it? So
Right.
there's a few things in there that I was like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, it's very well done. It's cool. That was a cool one, and don't know what else I've been really watching. We've caught a few movies during the quarantine, just weird, just sci-fi and action stuff that was popping up.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned like the infected zombies, and and now where we are now, because I think it was 28 Days Later, a British film, 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Danny Boyle's film that introduced the fast infected zombies. They're not corpses reanimated for whatever reason,
Right.
Demonic possession or whatever the reason was for Night of the Living Dead for these bodies to rise. But 20 days later was like this infection.
Yeah.
And so, in Europe and in Asia, we've noticed in the past 20, 30 years, they're always wearing masks. And this always kind of stuck out to me that they were always wearing masks. And there's a bunch of horror movies where there was another Asian or Japanese or Korean movie where, like for some reason I picture like this lady bleeding through her mask and something, and blood was soaking through her mask, and then they were like, oh, she's infected or something like that. I can't remember which movie that was, but it makes sense, that Asia would, because they always wore masks. If you were sick, they wore a mask. And here,
it's probably definitely more of a conversation there. I mean, look at the coronavirus, right? Came out of the Wuhan lab, and there, Asia, China, India, they kind of live on top of each other. They're very populated countries in their central cities. They're very, and I guess that's probably like maybe a phobia. That because I mean a lot of those countries are used to disease and don't necessarily deal with them as well because of the way that they live. So it's probably more of a phobia for them. I don't know. I'm just taking a stab at it, and I'm guessing that maybe that's why something like that is popular. It could just be another spin on the zombie genre because it's more realistic. Right. Yeah. So the dead just rising doesn't make a lot of sense except for what you said, like demonic possession, or, there was always speculation about Night of the Living Dead that maybe it was like a meteorite that crashed and it caused it. Somehow the radiation did something to cause it. Mm-hmm. But infection is so much more plausible. But with infection comes the fact that you can kill them a lot easier than it was to kill a zombie, where you could chop off a zombie's arms and legs and it would still be there reaching for you, trying to bite you. These infected in these films, like you could, and I like that you could kind of just put like 3 slugs in its body and its organs will fail because even though it's crazed, it still has to function as a living creature in order to operate. So so that's it could be that too. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do notice that. Yeah, I do notice that's more of a theme. Yeah.
Yeah, because which leads me to The Walking Dead, where you know they're like 20, 15. I think they're 15 years into the Walking. Well, story wise, they're 15 or 20 years into it. Now that
Yeah.
Rick's daughter's grown up,
Right.
and these bodies are still walking around, and they're rotten, like
Well,
rotten.
see, yeah, and so what I see with that too is I've often thought about that, but I think they expect you to believe that you're going to see some zombies that are really old that have been around for a long time, but you also have to believe that there are more zombies being created every day.
That's true. Yeah, because what was the twist? Like in season 2, it was we all have it. That's why they got to
right.
If you die from natural causes, they got to spike your brain.
Exactly.
So yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, but it's just you see you find I think with horror and suspense, especially obviously with fantasy and mythological films from other countries, you really pick up. But when it comes to horror, you really pick up modern day cultural differences, like how, for example, The Host, the Korean film The Host, about that monster. You picked up on how different customs are with parenting and respect to parents, and a lot of Japanese, with a lot of, especially just, Asian films in general, Japanese and Korean films, there's this totally different play on, family,
sure,
family values and respect. And that's like a big thing over in Japan. Super big thing in Japan is respect,
right.
and that sort of thing. But
yeah, I've never seen The Host, but I can imagine that. Yeah, and that's what I really love about foreign horror films too, is that you do see those cultural differences, which changes the dynamics a lot of a story. I find them really cool and interesting. One of my favorite horror films is the French horror film High Tension.
Yeah,
and I love it. That's totally culturally different. Like, you could kind of see that, living out on that farm in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Which really cool, but very interesting. I like that.
I think that's the first. I mean, I've probably seen some, violent films like that before High Tension, but they took that to like another level.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was in shock. I was in shock the first time I watched it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize how fast it was going to get to where it was going, and how like the title is so fitting, High Tension. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was on the edge of my seat for most of that movie. Just they did a great job. I love it. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
Yeah, it was intense. So, what would you say is next on the agenda for Theater of Terror for Tom Ryan?
Well, we've got an Indiegogo campaign going. We're trying to raise $20,000 for Return to the Theater of Terror. We made the first anthology with 10,000, but we're really trying to up our game. We're trying to get better locations, get more people involved. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to build an independent film, and so we're trying to get there. We've already raised about half of it. We've got about 30 days left on our campaign. So hopefully we make a nice run to the end there and get some steam, momentum. But we are in full-fledged production now on Splinter. I think this one's going to be about 4 shooting days. All of our shoots thus far have been only 2 for each short film, which has been a miracle to pull off. But for this one, we need about 4 days to pull it off because there's a lot involved. And once that's done, we're going to dive into Robot, which is the third segment of the anthology, and that one's going to be cool. My son stars in that one, and that's a small casting crew as well. So we're going to be able to nail it, and that's it. I mean, we're going full steam ahead. Whether or not we raise as much money as we need for this anthology, we are going to continue to make as many of the short stories that we've already written with however much money we are able to raise.
Sure.
And then when we get to that point, when we run out of money, we'll make a decision from there and see what we do.
Yeah, and I I can't agree more with that kind of mentality. It's like, hey, listen, I only got $100 to make this project. We're going to pull the trigger,
Right.
you know. And I've had partners before that were just like, no, we need $500,000. We can't do it with any less than $500,000. Well, I mean, and that's just a number I'm throwing out there. But they had like a certain budget. They had a certain budget in mind, and it's like we're not going to come anywhere near this. I did an Indiegogo for I think 30,000 for just one short that I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it big.
Yeah.
And I only raised 1,000. And so I said, okay, switch gears. I made a completely different short, much shorter, much simpler. And, you know, I asked everybody's permission, say, hey, listen, you know, for those who contributed, I know I had this short film in mind. I got a much shorter film that I could do with what I did raise. And everybody just checked the box. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And so, you know, that's the route we took. And I shot something. I shot something in, I think 2.5 days, you know, with $1,000, and was able to, you know, treat the cast and crew right, feed everybody snacks and all that jazz. And maybe it was probably maybe an extra 250 out of my own pocket.
Right.
But to pull off this little short, and I thought I'd be able to cut it during quarantine, but like, you know, like we were talking offline, you know, it's just, I thought quarantine, hey, I'm going to have all this time. I'll be able to knock out this stuff. And I've never been busier.
Yeah.
But, you know, like there's a couple other web series I have, and it's like, okay, here's the idea. Here's the vision, is that it is kind of a low budget. This is the vision. Yeah. And this is the way it's supposed to look. And then as it progresses, it'll, you know, sure, I hope to get a bigger budget and put money in my pocket and live off of my passion projects and my scripts. And, you know, of course, there's, you know, other outside opinions that are saying, yeah, but you got to do it this way. And I'm like, well, number one, you got to do something. You have to pull the trigger on something. If
you have to be able to adjust. You have to definitely be able to adjust if you want to make films. I mean, you could sit there and say, I want to make this $500,000 film, and have your script and have all your actors picked out and have everything, and then just try to figure out like how, you know, how long you're going to sit around waiting for money to fall into your lap. Or you could pick up a camera, work with what you've got, and adjust your thinking. I always give that advice to young filmmakers when they say, oh, what do you suggest, like when you're making your first films? And I always say, keep everything within the realm of reality as far as your budget is concerned. Don't go out and write some Space Wars movie or something that takes place in medieval, times. Or you gotta write stuff. I say to them, you know, write something that takes place in your living room between 2 or 3 characters. Write something that takes place in your basement or on your front steps, or something that you could film in the neighborhood, or something you could film in your car, or something that you could film in your dad's office, or whatever your resources are. You gotta kind of write around those, you know, and keep it within the realm of reality that way. Write whatever kind of story you want to write, but just remember what you're working with, because all you're going to do is sit around and be one of those guys that's got 100 scripts. If you just can never, if you want to be a filmmaker, now, if you're a writer, there's nothing wrong with having 100 scripts, but if you want to be a filmmaker in your writing, it's great to write a lot and have that 100 script pile there for the future, but try to write some stuff that you could work on today and tomorrow, and to help improve your filmmaking and help you improve your writing as well, because you could see is what you're writing translating from script to screen. Is this happening? Maybe I'm not a writer. Maybe I'm not a writer, or maybe I'm not a filmmaker, or, you know, so, and kind of help you distinguish what's going on. So yeah, absolutely, make what you can make.
Yeah, you know, I think about 10 episodes prior on this show, I had a screenwriter on, and he came up with the idea to start with a novel. He novelized his, you know, screenplay. He started with a novel first, and he would try to sell that. And he sold a number of his novels on Amazon. And now that he's got that clout, he also has the screenplay version of it. And so he can, and so then he's going to, so when he's pitching that screenplay, shopping that screenplay, hey, the book sold. It might be a best-selling novel, might not, but the book is selling on Amazon. It's doing well on Amazon. You know, it's a hit, good reviews. So that's my pitch. You know, like to even to say, and you know, Stephen King. You know, hey, it's a Stephen King book. Okay, sold. Right. You know, like Stephen King is a best-selling novelist all the time. So, so in a smaller regard, you know, you're a screenwriter. Well, try to novelize this first.
Yeah.
But I couldn't agree with you more as far as like, I've got a whole number of different screenplays that, you know, I still might need a doctor, and I've passed out to other folks, you know, some big war epics, some big sci-fi fantasy epics, maybe, but then, you know, some really, you know, like smaller scope, tightly knit, few character, one, two, three location type scripts that you mentioned. And it's like, that's how, if you look at the history of a lot of the big filmmakers out there, that's how they started. Jon Favreau wrote, and I think Doug Liman directed Swingers.
Right.
And then they grew.
Yep.
So Doug Liman ended up doing the Bourne trilogy and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Jon Favreau's like directing MCU
Forget
movies,
about it. Right.
Disney projects.
Yep.
Spielberg. I mean, you can even go all the way back to Spielberg with Duel. Duel was his first thing. It was just a crazed trucker, you know, trying to like, you know, run that guy off the road. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think his next one might have been Jaws, but I can't remember exactly. I think
it was Jaws. I think his next one was Jaws.
And what did he do with Jaws? They wanted Jaws to be this big monster feature, and due to his, listen, this is not how I got started, and that machine was breaking down all the time. He goes, Hitchcockian, get rid of the shark, fix that shark. I'm gonna shoot all these scenes without it. Fix the shark for that one pivotal scene with the shark.
Right.
But going back to that, it's like starting small and building and building and building and building, and a lot of screenwriters, and filmmakers too. I couldn't agree with you more. It's like you know, like, and even have fun with that griminess, and maybe have fun with the cheap grindhouse.
Always.
You know, there's a shit.
You always have to have fun on the film set, as far as I'm concerned. If you're not having fun, then you better be getting paid a hell of a lot of money, because you know, as far as I'm concerned, I always say this to the casting crew: when we're under stress, when the shoot's running long, maybe somebody didn't show, we have to adapt. We have to, you know, we got to kind of think on our feet. I always say to the guys, everybody relax and just remember, we're here to have fun. Let's just figure it out, work together. So important. And when you're making those little gritty shorts, it is all fun, because you're not really worried about how good it comes out. Mm-hmm. You're just worried about telling the story and enjoying the best part of filmmaking, which is just playing make-believe.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's why, you know, some people tell me I look 10 years younger than I am. Really, I probably only look 3 years younger than I am, but but you know, like, quality of life is a paycheck and enjoyment, loving what you do. I mean, it's an age-old saying. If you love your work, you don't work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially in this business, especially if you love it, you've got those creepos and those scumbags, those Weinsteins out there that aren't in it for the enjoyment. They're in it for like taking advantage of people.
Yeah, and the money. They're in it for the money too. Yeah. They're in it for the money.
But I think 9 out of 10 of us just love doing this shit, and we're willing to, like, you know, take less money and do stuff that we love to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a whole nother, like, residual in my mind. You know, what's the residual? Well, listen, I got, you know, 3-4 posters on the wall of projects that I was in, or that I did. I directed that. I produced that. I starred in that.
Right.
And so, yeah. Well, what's your view of the new normal?
Well, I don't believe in a new normal. I believe that this is, we are going to get back to the old normal sooner than we think. I think that the entire the entire virus experience, I think, shocked us as a society. And so I think that our reactions, the misfires that we made, all that stuff, it's all a learning process. But I think it really shocked society. And I think that we are going to come out on the other end of this with a better appreciation of being able to go to the mall or being able to go somewhere without a mask. I think we're going to get there. So the reason I don't believe in a new normal is because I don't believe masks are here to stay. There are probably still going to be people that wear masks out in public 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Hell, I knew people that wore masks before the coronavirus even hit. Didn't know them personally, but I'd seen people at the store or whatever. There's just some people that have always kind of, maybe they have a condition, maybe they're a hypochondriac, I don't know. But
now that's probably going to end up being normal, which
I don't know.
Perfectly fine.
Well, like, now if people wear them, right? Like, I don't think I just don't think the majority of people will wear them. I think that people will wear them for a long time, but I don't think it'll become a new normal to wear masks. And I think that sooner, I can't predict when, but I think that we're going to get back to it. People want to go out and eat. People want to make movies.
Yep.
People want to go to parties. People want to barbecue. And, without any disrespect to the dead or the people that have been infected or suffered, all of which I have personal friends that have from it, the numbers just don't bear out that it is of a proportion where we have to continue to panic long term. And so I just think it's gonna be something that we get over in a while. I don't think our reaction to this is going to last long enough to become a new normal. I think we're going to get back to going to the beach, going to the barbecues, going to the mall, and you'll see the people with the masks will become less and less and less. It'll probably take time, but I think the people are going to want to get back to the old normal, just because our culture, we're not overly cautious people, and I don't want to say that wearing a mask now is overly cautious, but I mean, when things begin to get better and cases are dropping and hospitalizations are dropping and all that kind of fades away, and you're just looking at, there was another 100 infections today in America, and it's like, that's nothing, and people are just like, okay. I think then it'll start to become something where people will just say, all right, I'm tired of wearing this on my face. I'm getting sweaty. And then the next summer hits, or that next heat wave hits, or the next time they have problems breathing, or they take it off, or they lose it, or whatever. I think it'll just become something that slowly, becomes a thing of the past. Fingers crossed.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I mean, I do want this to be a thing of the past. I think at the same time, this is definitely a wake-up call about our complacency and us not taking certain elements seriously,
Yeah.
and when you take a look at other cultures like Asia, where I think it's generally not preferred. I think it's generally expected for those that are sick to wear a mask. If you're sick, you wear a mask when you come to work.
Yeah, they're used to that already. Yeah, they're used to
right.
that.
And so I think little micro new normals maybe is what's going to be, quote unquote, the semi new normal. Is that it's like, hey, wear your mask if you're feeling sick, but you can still come into work. Then you're going to wear your mask. That's rule number one. And rule number two. And see,
that's what I hope the new normal is if you call into work and say I'm sick, they say stay home. As opposed to, because this has always been a problem in our society too. I used to go to the office and my coworkers were sick, or I'd go to school and kids were showing up sick, or teachers were sick, and yeah, you're right. That was never in our mentality as a society. It was like, if you're sick, you still go to work. You still got to pay the bills, and you never think about, we never reacted to the flu the way that we acted to the coronavirus. Yet we've had 80,000 people die of the flu in a year. So that's, that's also scary, but it just was never in our mentality. And I think the difference between us and a lot of those cultures in regards to the masks is that a lot of those cultures are used to their government telling them what to do and kind of imposing things that we don't consider freedom. And so that's what makes it hard for us, is that when there's people that go against safe practices just to make a point, I think.
True.
People,
Yeah.
look, it's just and your child is too young now, so you don't know yet, but I could use my kids as an example. Sometimes they just have to do the opposite of what I tell them to do. They just have to.
No, well, yeah, my son's only 6 months, but I am a sergeant in the National Guard. So I still totally get that shit. When you tell some people to do something, they still somehow pulled off the exact opposite I asked them to do.
Yeah. And I don't think that that's necessarily American. I think that's inherent in a lot of people to be disobedient. Now, like what you said about the cultures, like in Japan, the parents and the children, and that kind of relationship, where they would never dare do that. So that's more ingrained, where, yes, in our country, because of freedoms, a lot of people have this attitude like, F you, nobody can tell me what to do. And so I don't want to take either side of the argument, because I don't like wearing a mask. I wear it wherever it's required. Do I like wearing it? No. If they said tomorrow, okay, you don't need a mask anymore, I say good. And I wouldn't be paranoid about it and wear it anyway. I would just say, I'm done. Good. But at the same time, I also have friends and family that I worry about because they're more susceptible to the disease in the harsher terms. I feel like I'm pretty healthy. That doesn't mean it wouldn't harm me terribly, but it's just not something I worry about as much as I have friends who have health issues that worry about it. And I don't blame them, that they've been to the hospital frequently. They take medication. They have heart issues. They have lung issues. That's definitely something to take. So I think it's people kind of just react differently to ways. And society always tends to just make everything black and white and bash heads over it, where I think it's just like, look, I don't like wearing a mask, but when I walk into a place, if they want me to wear it, I have no problem wearing it. If it makes the people comfortable I'm around, I'll put it on. I have no problem wearing it. But when I'm going on a bike ride, I'm not going to wear it. When I'm walking through, when I'm hanging out in my yard, I'm not going to wear it. So, yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking so much about the mask, but I guess, it's, but culturally, yes, man, it's different. People get told to do certain things and they do them in different cultures. Over here, we tend to fight everything. We tend to doubt everything. And I just think it's kind of silly, but yeah, this is a problem, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, if I'm working on, getting some branded masks and trying to, and they're a part of my shop online, but, if I'm working on like getting a whole bunch of them for myself, and that's what I'll have, the wife and myself wear. So I won't have a problem wearing the mask if I just have like all these either 3 or 4 different branded masks.
Yeah.
And just walk around with them on all the time, and try to and find all these little slick ways, theater of terror or TOT with blood dripping down, and they're like, what is that? And hey, I'll tell you.
It's funny. One of my buddies said, why don't we make some TOT masks? And I thought that we had missed the boat on that, because it was already like 5 months after the whole pandemic started. And I said, man, everyone on Facebook is selling the masks, the branded masks. I said, I just don't know if there's like an audience for it. I guess we'd sell a few of them. But I said, with our luck, by the time we start selling them, they'll say, okay, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. We'll have like a box of 100 masks.
Well, listen, like you said, it's not going to be 95% population wearing masks, but I'm still pretty, insistent that it's going to be a good, like 10, 20% are going to be, I don't think we're going to be totally like Asia. And I don't think it's going to be government mandated. I just think that, just maybe out of respect or out of common courtesy, out of, you know, maybe somewhat fear, just like individual preference, maybe that some people are going to keep wearing masks.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And people might, I mean, I don't know if people will do it year round, but it certainly might become a seasonal type thing. When it's flu season, you might see a lot of people wearing masks during flu season. If they consider, hey, if this helps stop COVID, it might stop the flu. And so I wouldn't, you know, look, whatever you want to do to protect yourself. If you have health worries like that, then by all means, you know, do it. It doesn't bother me, for sure. You know, it doesn't bother me for sure. So I think my thinking might change if they required it in places after we had already come out of it. If there were places that just continued to require it, I think that might bug me a little bit. If it's like, well, look, no one else requires it. Oh, we just require it. But then this is, again, it's just the great thing about freedom, is that you could shop where you want and go where you want. And so if you don't like it, you don't go there. Right.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. So any last point and last bit of advice for our viewers?
In regards to filmmaking, hopefully not politics.
No, we can stay away from politics. That's fine.
But any advice on filmmaking? So I think for anybody that's worried about getting back to it now in this sort of post-COVID era, I would just say just common sense, right? Just continue to wash your hands. If you are in close quarters, I would suggest to wear a mask. If you're not in close quarters, I would suggest to just, you know, normal human behavior is like, don't get in people's face, give everyone their space. Working on a set, you have to work closely sometimes, and just understand who you're working with, communicate with your cast and crew. On indie sets, we're very small, so I personally know everyone well. So everyone is very open about their exposure, their travel habits, and all that. So we've covered all that. We feel comfortable that we're ready to get back to it. A couple of our cast and crew members have actually caught COVID and have recovered from it perfectly. So we're happy about that. Not recently either. It was kind of back in the early months. So we're happy about that. But I would suggest that anybody just be careful, but get back to it, man. Get back to filmmaking. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get back with your colleagues and create. Start small if you're worried about the bigger productions. Write stuff within your budget and go for it. And if anything, share it with your friends and family and get some feedback. And you know, that could be very reassuring. And always be ready to take negative feedback. Yeah. You know, I was just going to say failure is not the end. It's just a stepping stone, right, to the next film, to the next project. So I wouldn't even worry about that. And it's, even if you get negative feedback, you can't consider it a failure because you've made a film.
Yeah. And
you know,
yeah. And I love that, you know, failing or, you know, making mistakes. Those are all just learning lessons. The true failure is quitting. Right. That Absolutely. Is because so many people have told me, you know, like, I can't do this. And I'm like, when you're dead, you're done. Yeah. But until you're dead, you know, death is the ultimate firing. Right. But you're never truly fired. I've been kicked off of so many sets mostly as an AD. Yeah. You know, by directors that it just, they're not, it's not clicking. Yeah. And you know, a couple months later, I got another gig somehow, directing or producing a live stream or ADing another film or acting in something. And it's like, hey, I've been fired a bunch of times and I've failed. Sure. I've had projects that just sucked. Yeah. But I know why now. And a good point is like, you know, hopefully, you know, people know who their family are. Right. Yeah. So I've shown my mom a bunch of my projects and she hated them. Yeah. And I knew that they were awesome because she hated them. Right. And so then I put it up on YouTube or whatever, or Vimeo, or, you know, or I released it, however I released it, and they did well. Yeah. Because my mother hated it so much.
That was the sign.
It's gonna be good then. It's gonna be good.
Right.
She hates gore, she hates horror, she hates
Yeah.
suspense, and so she goes, oh, all too much. I'm like, okay, I'm keeping all that
This is
in.
it. It's a winner.
Right? You
It's
got
a
to know
winner.
your family, you got to know your coworkers, you got to know your friends, and so
Yeah.
you know, like how my brother might have liked something, okay,
Yeah.
it's gold. And if my mother hated it, okay, it's gold, you know?
Right.
So
There you go. There you go.
absolutely. So how about any socials, links, plugs you want to put out there?
Well, you can check us out on www.theaterofterror.net, and theater is spelled Theatre. You can check us out on Instagram. We are Theater Terror. On Twitter, it's also Theater Terror, not of, just Theater Terror. And what else? Gosh, check us out on Facebook at Theater of Terror. Yeah.
So theater with a RE, not an ER.
RE, correct.
RE theater. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, Tom, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Links to Theater Terror and Tom Ryan's stuff are in the description below. And again, it was a great conversation. I can't thank you enough for coming on. A lot of good insight and ideas. And
awesome, man. Thank you.
I'm glad you're gearing up. I'm glad you're almost back on set. And I've had a few people. I've had a few people that have been back, but a lot of people that are just gearing up, ready to go. So it's awesome.
We're ready. We're ready to get to it, man. We'll let you know how it turns out.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
thanks, man.
Well, to my viewers, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. And until next time, check us out.